This is my Crip Camp 5-minute response. Um, how the film impacted me personally. Watching Crip Camp had a bigger emotional impact on me than I expected. Seeing teenagers who had been excluded their entire lives suddenly experience freedom, belonging, and joy made me rethink what inclusion actually means. The film made me realize how much I take accessibility for granted. These campers weren't fighting for special treatment, they were fighting for the right to live, learn, and move through the world just like anybody else would. Personally, it pushed me to reflect on how society often views disabilities as limitation of a natural part of human diversity. It also made me think about how powerful community can be changed, formed at Camp Jenny, and literally changed national policy. That's not something you forget. What what you learned, what I learned about Judy Human and her impact. Judy Human's story stood out to me because her activism came directly from her lived experiences, being denied entry into school because she was a quote unquote fire hazard, and later being denied a teaching job because she used a wheelchair. What I learned is that Judy didn't just advocate for herself, she advocated for millions. Her leadership during the Section 504 sit-ins showed how persistence, organization, and courage can force the government to act. The film helped me understand that disabilities weren't rights aren't handed out. They were fought for through civil disobedience, protests, and people refusing to be invisible. Judy's impact is still felt today in every ramp, every accessible classroom, every student who receives accommodations, and every teacher who understands their legal and moral responsibility. How 504 and the ADA will impact my teaching. Section 504 and 88 shape how I will approach teaching because they make inclusion and a legal requirement, not just a personal preference. As a teacher, I'm responsible for ensuring that students with disabilities have equal access to learning, whether that means providing accommodations, modifications, or collaborating with family and the specialist. Section 504 reminds me that disability isn't about ability, it's about getting rid of the barriers, and it is my job to make sure the classroom materials and instruction don't create unnecessary obstacles for the student. The ADA also impacts how I think about physical space, seating, movement, and access technology and emergency procedures. It forces me to plan proactively instead of reactively. How will you build inclusion and acceptance in your classroom? Inclusion starts with classroom culture. I want my students to see a difference in normal, valuable, and part of community, not something to be fixed. I will teach students how to support each other, how to collaborate respectfully, and how to recognize everyone learns differently. I'll use diverse materials, model inclusion language, and make sure students with disabilities are fully involved in every activity. They should never be separated or singled out because of their disability. I also want students to feel safe and ask for help and expressing their needs. Inclusion isn't about access, it's just about belonging in the classroom. The differences and similarities between 504s and IEPs. A 504 plan provides accommodations so students can access learning in general education classrooms. It removes barriers but doesn't change the curriculum. An IEP includes specialized instruction, goals, services, and modifications. It is much more individualized and involves a full blown special education team. The biggest simulator is that both protect students' rights and require teachers to follow them. Both ensure students with disabilities receive what they need to succeed. The biggest difference is that IEP changes how the student learns, while 504 changes the conditions which they learn in. As a teacher, I must understand both clearly, follow consistently, and communicate with families, specialists to make sure students receive the full support they legally are entitled to.